better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you need the wrong or right. You never know if you don't You better roll them dice.
Cheers, Rob.
Cheers. This is episode 2 of Matt and I in person talking about things. As you may have guessed by our long and weary sigh, that we just watched a thing that we enjoyed very thoroughly.
I feel like my eternal soul was captured in a soul jar spell, left my body, and I forgot who I was briefly as I was exiled beyond the current realities of time and space. I'll slowly coming back to being a human person.
I'll just take a shorter version of what Matt said and say that I just feel less than after the last hour of what we did. So this is Dungeon Master of None, by the way. I'm Rob.
And I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
Oh, sorry. Forgot my title. And Matt, do you want to talk about what we've been doing for the past 2 hours?
We were on Twitch watching the just released stream, the first match of RPG Sports, a competitive version of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. So this is so to be clear, I think it used to be D&D Sports or something like that. This is brand new. Or I'm not sure the company's brand new, but this is their first stream, their first actual thing. And it is loosely affiliated with Wizards.
Right, they're sponsored by Wizards.
Sponsored by Wizards. I think specifically D&D Beyond, and they also have some sort of partnership with Roll20, it seems like. So, as you might gather, this is a competition.
So all the names you know and love.
All the names you know and love and trust to do a good job. Hold on just a second, though. This stupid cat out. He's enormous.
It feels very fragile. Oh, is it?
He kills, like, birds and squirrels, like, with reckless abandon.
Well, killing and murder, a thing that was not in the RPG Sports stream.
That's right.
A little bit of background is that, as longtime listeners of the show will know, that Wizards of the Coast, for some insane reason, has been talking up this idea of making role-playing games, specifically D&D, into an e-sport.
Right.
We all know that watching streams of D&D is incredibly popular, and it's fun. People love it. But Wizards seems to have taken the idea that they need to also make it a sport because esports are bigger than watching.
Well, sure. Play. If you're the CEO of Hasbro, for example, and you live in a $1 million mansion in the hills of Seattle and never talk to anybody who doesn't own a boat, you probably, know.
Wait, Rob. He's had plenty of conversations with his boat guy and his boat cleaner. Listen, you gotta get those.
I'm sure his gardener and maid don't own a boat. Anyway, but if you know that, like, two of the biggest things right now are esports and also Twitch streams about D&D, then naturally, of course, you being the richly compensated executive full of good ideas will think, oh hey. Of course, what you'll call down to your poor VP underling and say, why aren't we doing D&D esports? And they'll be forced to then call down until somebody starts a D&D esports stream, which is what has happened.
I think that's Rob, through his sarcasm, has actually made a good point in that there is something, it does sort of make a certain amount of sense, right? Both of these things are popular. Why shouldn't there be a D&D esports? And all of you who have actually played D&D and love D&D are all screaming into traffic or wherever you're listening to this podcast of like, no, D&D is about storytelling with your friends, not about Twitch skills and launching nukes and pick bands. And
again, all it would take is about 5 minutes of watching, a ninja stream and 5 minutes of watching Critical Role to understand why both are popular, but for radically different reasons.
Only one ever gets in trouble for saying racial slurs. I think is the main difference.
That's right. Say what you will for D&D streams. They don't generally have to go off the air because someone actually did a racism.
Right. And so we're here today talking because we watched the first of said streams. Yeah. And to start out on a positive note, I would like to compliment them. They didn't say anything problematic.
That's right. Nobody said
no
a
one
slur.
said women can't be on my stream.
Nobody had a heated gaming moment.
Right. No one sung along to a song with problematic lyrics.
Yes. So already the
very low bar has been
the
cleared.
RPG sports team has proven better than the vast majority of esports teams.
Yeah. So for our listeners who play D&D but aren't familiar with like how big esports has gotten,
sure.
Do we want to talk about esports?
Well, so
they're not sports. We're nerds, and we're saying right now, esports are not sports, but they are a thing.
They are a thing. So one, the sports not sports conversation matters absolutely nothing to me, and I have no. So I don't think anybody.
We're going to talk about it for 15 minutes.
I don't think anybody should call themselves an athlete if you're a gamer. And I don't think it's a sport, but also who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah, so here's what I'm going to come down on this. I think it's silly but harmless. I do like to watch some. I know a lot of you probably do. You shouldn't feel bad about it. I like Overwatch. Houston Outlaws. Hooray.
Yeah, Outlaws.
But
Muma is my son.
Yeah. Yeah, we have they're all our large adult sons.
Yeah, we're fans of the nice boys on the Houston Outlaws.
the nice big boys on the Houston Outlaws.
The biggest things in esports are these games called MOBAs, which stands for
massively online
battle arena. And
so
they're basically games that were built out of people modding Warcraft 3, not World of Warcraft, but Warcraft the strategy game. And they're games where you look top down, there's a map, there are 5 players on a team, and they sort of just try and kill each other.
Sure.
But unlike games where you're like running around looking in the first person perspective, the heroes that they control often follow stereotypes of fantasy computer games. So there are heroes that look like a D&D sorcerer or a rogue or something. Some can sneak around, some can
and it's usually 5-on-5, so there's a lot going on. They're pretty dynamic.
They're very big in Korea and in Europe.
You all know these. It's your League of Legends, your Dota 2s, your Heroes of the Storm, your Smite.
Yeah, there's a ton of these games, and they're extremely popular.
And they're fun, and they
can be very frustrating to play.
They're very challenging.
I'm not a huge fan.
If you're not 19 years old anymore. Yeah, again, millions of people watch these. Esports is $1 billion industry. The prize pools can get in the millions of dollars.
People are making their living off of
So again,
this, right?
You'll see why we're going into this. Again, I'm sorry if we're talking to telling you something that you already know, listener. I apologize, but there's a reason why we're discussing esports and MOBAs in general.
I mean, I'm just hopeful that many of our listeners don't know about this. It would make my life better if I knew there were people out here who didn't have to think about this. The last thing I'll say about esports being a sport is sports are things people control, right? People made football. People made rugby.
Sure.
And while those things have been captured by monopolies of leagues like the NFL or the NHL, nothing stops you from going and playing basketball on your own. And the difference about esports is esports play a proprietary piece of software, a video game, whether it's Fortnite or Counter-Strike or League of Legends, that's owned by a business that has absolute sort of control over what happens in its esports things, usually, right? And, that presents us with an interesting dynamic. Because role-playing games, similarly, while you did buy a rule set probably from a company, you, the people who play it, control the game. And so, I don't know. Is this
Well, no, it's also interesting because, as we know, sponsorships are baked into real sports too, but it means that there's the conversation sort of has to start with the company that owns the game about who will make money off of it, how will it be presented, who is allowed, which competitors, if any, are allowed to even advertise or have anything to do with this. And that gets even weirder when you have large companies like Microsoft that own,
or Amazon that owns Twitch.
Right. So it gets, again, I don't know that there's been any particularly weird problems where
so far we haven't seen any action by a company that makes a role-playing game to attempt to use something like esports to capture more control over how and when people play the game. It's just something I worry about.
It's something that is worrying.
It's still on the distant
in both
horizon,
esports,
but
and
now I can see it for the first time.
So,
all right, so let's talk about
RPG sports.
Sports.
So if you are a fan of esports, for example, if you watch Overwatch League, then you will recognize the format, and the format is extremely familiar. It starts with two sort of like hype announcer people, and I did not write down their names. They are two, I believe they're Twitch streamers. They seem very nice.
Yeah. So we want to say everyone before, because we have some criticism.
Oh yeah, we're going to be unkind.
Most of what we're going to say is negative. However, the people
were fine.
Were fine, and they were...
Some of them were actually incredibly entertaining. They were all trying very hard.
Grant Ellis did a admirable job, and people were trying hard. So.
Yes. And it was awkward. They were losing sound. There were technical difficulties. I feel like it'll get better the more comfortable people get. There are two analysts who then discuss sort of the strategy and the nuts and bolts. And again, you'll recognize this from most... Well, it's a format, obviously, from real sports that eSports has adopted. It's a fine format. It works. But they were struggling.
They were struggling to say anything interesting because the actual format of what competitive D&D looked like, according to the rules they designed, was two parties of 4 player characters put into an incredibly large room, rolling initiative and trying to kill each other.
Let's try to keep it. Don't say incredibly. Just like talk about like the nuts and bolts, and then we get into how large the room was later on.
Okay. So the nuts and bolts was they picked among 15 pre-generated level 4 Dungeons and Dragons characters,
right?
As if it was like a MOBA.
Right.
They formed two parties out of that.
They had ban phases and pick phases. Again, you'll recognize this from any competitive like fighting game but especially from MOBAs. So,
but the goal of the goal of the banning and picking was to create 2 teams of 4-player parties that would then try and murder each other.
Right. The win condition is, just to be super clear, killing the enemy party, trying to get team kills. I believe it's set up a little bit like a sports league, so if you win by more, that will affect your ranking later on. We'll talk about later why
We're going to talk about stats of damage for, damage against.
Matt is joking, but I think they actually they really want baseball card style stats for this league. God. And again, if it worked, that would be a great idea. That would be like one of the advantages here. But anyway.
So picks and bans, it's just, it's incredibly bizarre. So I can see why they wanted to do this.
So sorry, this is the part where we talk about what we don't like, but let's...
The entire podcast.
Let's make sure we cover like all the basics. So again, 2 teams of 4. Right. It was Team Kobold versus Team Mind Flayer.
Sure.
And yeah, they picked 4 characters, tried to build a team, and then they're set loose on a map. It is important to note that there are randomly generated items on the map.
This is all in Roll20, by the way.
This all takes place in Roll20.
See a map, you can see the Dungeon Master, you can see everyone's camera.
We didn't get to this, but in theory, in later rounds, there will be environmental hazards and traps. But we didn't get that far. So anyway, just trying to provide a framework of how this is supposed to go. It's basically, again, like a battle arena, a death match, right? Imagine your like Unreal Tournament or something like that, 4-on-4. What's a good like 4-on-4 game?
Basketball.
I'm trying to think
sudden death hockey.
I was trying to think of like a 4-on-4 shooter that I played. I don't
Usually basketball is 5 players.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
That's a basic thing of basketball. Yeah, so, the goal is just simply to kill the other side.
Right.
The 15 pre-generated characters spanned all of the player handbook classes. There was at least one from each. And so players, and this was the first sort of bizarre, so... We're going to, at the very end,
we're going to talk right now about what we liked, and then we'll spend the majority.
Let's talk about what we liked.
Spend the majority of the podcast talking about why.
What did you like, Rob?
I'll tell you what I liked. Is I did like some of the ideas they presented. I at first did not like the magic items like randomly placed around the map, but I think that's sort of interesting and fun. And if they do this again next time, maybe do it differently. But I thought that was a good idea. I thought that a lot of the players brought good energy and enthusiasm to the game. I want to shout out to Pobus, whoever was playing Pobus. I forgot the guy's name, but was working real hard to
provide some entertainment.
Yes, because God knows we needed it. And
I guess my high point was, just people tried to make this work.
Yeah.
And, good effort, I guess.
And I gotta say that for this many people involved and, an obviously amateur stream, that there were, it actually did go off pretty well. We only noticed like the technical problems because the game was dragging so much as it was that they became especially obvious when the sound broke or something went wrong in Roll20. So again, pretty good for first timers.
Yeah.
I want to give them props, and maybe future streams will be different.
All right. Are we ready to talk about things we didn't like, or is there more that we like?
No, I'm just trying to, a lot of people put effort into this. We're trying to be kind. So let's just talk about what we didn't like, which is basically everything. Picks and bans. Start
which
there.
doesn't make a lot of sense for a game like D&D, right? I think Rob has mentioned that the goal is obviously to bring players who have played and watched esports into something like D&D and having something familiar.
So that's worth mentioning. Grant specifically. So Grant Ellis, do you want to tell our listeners who he is?
He's a dungeon master online.
Yeah,
follow him on Twitter. He has great advice for DMs.
Yeah, he's a good online DM. He's written some good things. So he specifically said early on in the stream that one of the goals of this is to teach new players how to play and do things they might not normally do in D&D. So keep that in mind as Matt and I describe what happens.
Yes. The thing is, the concept of having 15 pre-generated characters is interesting. So players don't get to make their own characters, which is fine. That way the people who are making the game control what abilities each thing has. But it's going against the very fundamental strength of D&D, which is making your own character. The other side consequence of this is the game starts off by looking at 15 pre-generated characters that have zero personality to them at all, right? In games like Dota or League of Legends, you're like, well, I'm going to pick Blitzcrank. He's a tank golem thing.
Right.
And this is just like, well, this is a half-elf sorcerer, and this one's a tiefling rogue. It doesn't matter. They're as unmemorable as possible.
The problem is that pick bans are already pretty boring in League or Dota or whatever, but no one
wants to watch that.
But you can see the players as they're doing it, and you know the characters in question, so there's some drama to it.
Yeah, you know the characters. That's the difference, right?
Nobody knew anything about these characters, and nobody had any idea. And
if you're going to do them, you might as well make the characters licensed property, right? You might as well make one of the characters Drizzt
or something like that. And the analysts were trying to provide context for the picks and bans, but it just was 20 minutes of staring at just like a bunch of like pictures, like
clip art
on a screen.
Rob and I were losing our goddamn
we were
minds.
losing our fucking minds. It was pretty bad. So
then
not a strong start. Again, this is the beginning of the. Yeah. So from like an entertainment perspective, it's a massive failure. Not even getting to like how bad it is as a game, but yeah. So that's the first part.
Rob was really excited because having picks and bans brings up his favorite topic to discuss, which is class tiers.
I thank you for reminding me, Matt. So if you're like me, you've spent a lot of time arguing about class tiers, both good and bad. But like, I am so tired of discussing why wizards are tier 1 and
Rob, they're tier 1.
They are tier 1, but I'm just like I don't want people to think of classes in that way. Right. I do think it is sometimes instructive to point out like why some are worse. It's like why in 3.5 martial classes had a distinct disadvantage, but I also think it's just like a terrible way to think about classes, and I try to discourage it, and I'm so upset that now we have like reinforcing they banned the wizard, that's a tier 1 class.
So the thing is also they organized each pre-made character into a role, like tank,
right,
damage dealer, healer.
Yeah.
And while those things do sort of apply to any class-based RPG, one of the great things about Dungeons & Dragons and why it's better than playing any other type of game, like a video game, is that characters are more than their role. Do you want to make a fighter that is really smart and has some knowledge skills? You can do that, right? So it's just a little mind.
And and even within like a more narrow framework, like you can create a lot of different types of characters, even mechanically in 5th edition. Like you have a lot more options than you used to.
And then the second unintended consequence of the pick ban phase is that everyone received a character that they were only vaguely familiar with.
Right.
For the rest of the stream, people didn't know what their character did or their abilities because, you know, they had a little bit of choice, but, you know, they had no control over what character they got.
And again, I want to be kind, though a lot of the problems here were people like not knowing the ranges of their spells. And
or have using Roll20 before. You would think you would want people who had played Roll20
right.
a lot.
I mean, I don't know. There's
inaugural.
we forgot to mention there's like a $5,000 prize pool, which again isn't, you know, a lot, but it's also not nothing. You know,
that's big money for.
That's big money for role playing games. Yeah, no fucking kidding. And
I don't think anyone's ever gotten paid $5,000 to make a thing for.
Oh no, no, absolutely.
Game. So this is a lot of money.
So these people, I don't know. Again, I don't want to like give them a hard time. I'm sure they did take this seriously, but it also seems like you've got time. Like figure out how. Like one guy lost a turn because he didn't know how long his spell was, and I'm like, I know like there was a turn timer, which is good. Because they needed it, 45 seconds to take your turn, but also like, come on, folks, like you have plenty of time, like leading up to like know like what you're gonna do. And by the way, I make my in-person players do this, and they're not competing for money. So like, I can't figure out like why these people came and like weren't even with pre-mades. Again, these are supposed to be pro gamers. I guess. I don't know.
Well, they're not pro until they win some money.
That's right. They're not
they
pro.
Can still compete in the Olympics, which we'll be talking about, I guess, in 4 years.
Sure. Yeah. The RPG Olympics. Sorry, I got off on a tangent. What were we talking about?
I'm sorry to be negative, but it's like at every decision here, from concept to execution, it seems like people who made the worst possible choice at everything. Imagine a different game where people showed up with characters they had made. Maybe you give them a limited set of options so no one makes anything too outrageous. And then they introduce their party. Like, we're the soldiers of the Iron League. Together, we have fought many battles and we've come to whatever this extra dimensional arena is to fight for our liege lord so-and-so. They have a little backstory for their party, and that would be cool.
Well, and so that's what I was thinking of. That's what I wrote down, was that if you are going to do this...
First don't.
Don't.
Then if you
but maybe think of it more like pro wrestling than a MOBA. Like let people like make like
become
big
attached
personalities,
to their
right? Big,
oh man, I really hope Drax the Barbarian makes it to the next round.
Exactly.
I fall in love with his
character.
Bring
in big personalities, have them like create like memorable characters, and then maybe it's a little structured. I don't know. You could still make it like still random or like competitive, but also like let people create like big, bombastic, interesting characters, villains, heels,
pre-generated characters that we know nothing about and have no reason to care about.
Play to the strengths of like the setting and the format. Dungeons and Dragons. Don't try to make it a MOBA. There's better systems for that. Instead, make it like pro wrestling, where people can like who have like where it's still competitive. Okay, fine.
Rob wants the outcomes to be staged.
Yes, I could go either way on that, but I do
honestly sure. Why not?
But I do think it would be better to like let people like have fun with their characters. And again, if you provide frameworks, nobody can like really like listen. In 5th edition, it is very hard to create a broken character. This is not 3.5. If you give people like free reign, they're not going to come back with something that immediately breaks the game. It's very hard to do in 5th edition. So just give them some like basic parameters, have somebody check their work so they're not cheating. And then, they created, again, Drax the Barbarian or, any number of interesting characters rather than just like a generic pre-made.
The last thing I'll say before we can't believe we haven't actually talked about the supposed dungeon battle yet. The last thing I'll say about characters in Mega is they chose 4th level, which means everyone's pretty beefy. Everyone has a good number of rules to know for their character. So that also made it a little more complicated and confusing.
Matt and I have had a disagreement about this, and I would love for you listeners to weigh in. But I think the ideal level for this, again, if you're going to do this, and don't, but if you were going to do something like this, is 3rd level. Matt thinks that's too high, and I can see his point, but I think 3rd level is when you get the most interesting class abilities and the most chances for some sort of like interesting combat.
With the way things went, you definitely want to do 1st or 2nd level just so things will go faster and there will be less rules and people will die. I love squishy 1st level characters. I'd love it if the first round the wizard's head got chopped off because he went too far out of cover. Anyway, so the game actually began, and they rolled initiative as you would, with the teams sort of divided up in their initiative. They didn't do like team initiative. It wasn't one team went, then the other team went. It was like individual characters, and they all took their turns. They had a turn timer. They were on a giant map that had some walls, but was mostly featureless.
So yeah, there was terrain,
and then but they tried to kill each other.
But in Roll20, it was very hard to see. It was not a very interesting or dynamic map. I know it's hard to make good map art in Roll20, but they might as well have not bothered.
This was made in like the online dungeon creator. I recognize some of the sprites.
it was very weak. It was hard to tell like where the walls were. It just like wasn't.
They also had, and this is basically the really fucks up the entire idea of a battle, universal field of vision.
Oh, right.
Which is something you can actually get away from in Roll20 with dynamic lighting. You give everyone their own lighting source, and they can only see, their own, the area 60 feet around them or something like that.
I gotta wonder if maybe like there wasn't a way like players were supposed to be able to see everyone on their team or something, and they couldn't figure it out in Roll20. But I think, or that it would have been hard during their turn to show the screen of the player and like their field of vision. Maybe that was like, but anyway, the point is Matt's correct. This is a huge advantage to some and disadvantage to others, though. Seeing how it went, it was good that they could all see each other, because if they had been able to hide, it would have been 45 minutes of literally nothing happening.
So it was 10 minutes of people just moving, which is as boring as anything I can ever
The map
imagine.
was not particularly large. It was still much too large.
Right.
I
imagine
players should have been within one move of each other.
Right.
So if you had initiative, yes, you would get the first attack, but you would be able to move 30 feet and hit the enemy team.
Yeah, I think they were like afraid of like someone getting to go first, moving and shattering or fireballing the entire enemy party.
The problem, the solution there is just to have people spawn.
Right, just put some lines of sight or people spawn.
Well, yeah, they all don't have them all. They all started like right next to each other on one end of a hallway,
which doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't have to happen. Have all four of them spawn 20 feet apart, so they can't get fireballed.
Anyway, it took 10 minutes of people moving around. I think it was like 30 minutes into the stream that someone actually attacked someone else.
Yeah, I think it was about 30 minutes the first time anybody did damage. So yeah, there were, as I mentioned, magic items randomly generated on the map. About half of the time was spent moving to those and picking them up.
Yeah. I mean, you could tell right away that it was just a time sink and didn't actually add anything. Some of the players really tried to be creative. One of the teams wore like creepy animal hats, which sort of, I get they were trying to add some personality to their team. Good on them, but it also made it hard to hear them.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Grant was trying very hard and he did a good job, but also he had a very challenging role. A lot of mistakes were made.
Not having team initiative or having a DM for each team and then a central DM, which would probably be a better way to do this, meant that, the teams never got to like discuss their strategy. It was simply watching, all right, now it's your turn, Pobus. What do you do?
I think they did discuss like privately with each other a little bit, but also everyone was in a different place. And again, if you're going to do this, and
you need
don't,
people to
but everyone needs to be in the same room. I think otherwise, that's one of the things that does work for esports is you get to see the teams communicating and being dynamic with each other.
Even esports, a game that is about playing things over the computer for actual tournaments, they put them next
in
to
the
each
same
other.
place because that's even for esports, that's better to watch.
So there was the thrilling game of Dungeons and Dragons, in which two teams slug it out, actually had a conclusion. One team won, the other team lost.
Literally, so the very last action before time ran out, and when time runs out, they got to complete the initiative tracker, but the very last action, barely gotten off because I don't know if he wasn't paying attention or Roll20 didn't work, but he didn't make his rolls. One player quickened and cast Scorching Ray, which, as you no doubt know, listener.
Well, quickened spelled a Scorching Ray, which is a legal thing to do for a sorcerer character. And then he cast Scorching Ray again, which is rules as written and as any sort of esports interpretation is illegal. So one team won by doing something completely against the rules, which is casting your highest level spell twice, which, no surprise, killed another character.
Right. So,
and the team that killed one character won, and the other team lost.
Yes. He cast 6 Scorching Rays, which is a pretty good alpha strike, and did enough.
It's so good it should be illegal.
Which it was, but they did it anyway.
Well, honestly, I can't think of a better conclusion than Dungeons & Dragons' first foray into esports, and then someone winning by misinterpreting the rules.
Exactly.
By the way, very D&D
I think we have discussed this before. It is a common misinterpretation of the rules, which I have made, but I am also not running an esports league.
Right. You can do whatever you want in your home brew.
Right.
Yeah, the one we're referring to is in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. There is a hard-baked rule that you can only cast one non-cantrip spell a turn.
Right. By the way, it is an easy rule to miss, so if you've been doing it wrong, no worries. But again,
it doesn't matter. It's not an important
You should
rule.
know it. Again, I'm not running an esports league where this actually does matter.
And the only reason I think it's a rule is basically to prevent exactly what just happened, which is a sorcerer destroying something in one turn.
In one turn. Which is definitely the most egregious use. So
the game ended with no fanfare. Shout out to Pobus. Whoever played a gnome warlock was a lot of fun.
Pobus was great. Again, Pobus did not land the killing blow. We just liked his character. He was trying very hard to add some much needed enthusiasm and entertainment to the game, and he did a great job.
I think we only got through 4 rounds.
I think that's correct.
And so that means each player only got 2 minutes of screen time, which is not a lot. If you want
3 minutes, 45 seconds.
Well, fuck you and your math. All right, yeah,
but not much. No. So it was not
Shout
great.
Out to the one analyst broadcasting from her bedroom.
Though to be fair, all of the players. About half the players were also broadcasting from their bedrooms.
Good.
So
they all had sweet gamer chairs.
They had awesome gaming chairs and gaming headsets.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the dude who chugged his bro shake on screen. That was pretty good. Yeah. I forgot he was playing a barbarian or something. Anyway, people were trying to be entertaining, and it was really not a good format for it. Energy was low. Players were tentative.
Rob and I were about to murder each other out of sheer boredom.
As I have mentioned,
we were like stuck on a desert island, and like, well, let's have a Hunger Games because we're so bored.
As I have mentioned, like in my own games, I make players immediately tell me what they're going to do, and if they don't know, I skip them. And by now, it's not like a threat. Everyone just does it, and it's fine. But I just can't imagine why you would go into this and like players did not know what they were going to do, or they had like, I don't know, they just like didn't I just don't know, Matt. I just don't know, Matt. I just don't know.
All right. On that high-pitched wail, we're going to take a quick break and come back and maybe talk about, is there any hope for this?
Yeah.
And maybe a better
We'll
way.
talk specifically about what we want for the future and what might go differently.
It might feel good, it might sound a little something, but damn the game if it don't mean nothing. What is game? Who got game? Where's the game in life? Behind the game, I got game, she got game, we got game, they got game, he got game. It might feel good, it might sound a little something, but the game if it ain't saying nothing. Something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there. Yeah, that's right. Telling me I got to beware. It's time we stop.
Hey,
Okay, we're back. We're back.
So, good news. No one died during the RPG Sports stream. No war crimes were committed. It only contributed marginally to global warming.
It was generally inoffensive.
Nothing really matters here at the end of all things.
It's
so
true.
Who cares?
In terms of waste of time and money and effort, it was actually pretty low.
Like watching Troll 2,
Right.
Rob and I got some enjoyment out of some of the mistakes of the stream.
It wasn't the worst thing. Again, it wasn't like I'm I'm trying to think of like a particularly boring movie that cost a lot of money to make.
Suicide Squad.
Suicide is a great, perfect example. It wasn't like Suicide Squad, which squandered like a whole bunch of money, and I can't remember anything about because it was so completely forgettable.
I remember one guy got his head blown off.
I don't even remember that.
Margot Robbie did like
we all liked
gymnastics.
It was just like a Margot Robbie movie. Everyone else is entirely forgettable.
The trailer was interesting.
The trailer was great, which is why they recut the entire film because
shout out to our boy Steve Mnuchin.
Yeah, way to go, Steve Mnuchin, producer of Suicide Squad. Anyway, so the point is that in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't matter at all. As of the recording of this podcast, this stream has a little over 2,000 views.
Right.
Which for Twitch is...
Hey, it's more listens than an episode of our podcast, so maybe, Rob, you and I are the real losers here.
We are the real losers. We are absolutely the real losers here. Just to be clear, we are still like bigger losers than these people.
Right. So this leads us to the question, Rob. Competitive D&D, people are going to keep trying to do it. Is there a path forward?
So... Matt and I's opinion on this is pretty obvious. Don't. I do not think that this is fun or interesting, and there's any way to do this, especially...
Don't think this is salvageable at all.
Especially online, I can see maybe something like this working at a con.
Right, you could record that and Twitch. So, like, one of the things I've done at a con with several co-DMs, shout out to my friend Greg, who owns lots of Dwarven Forge train, is we have multiple party dungeons, and sometimes the parties fight each other, sometimes they don't, sometimes they cooperate, but it's a giant dungeon that just has multiple parties in it, usually working their way to a common center from opposite ends, and it can make for some really exciting role-playing.
Right. But I think without... Let me say this. Without better production values... it won't work online. You need more graphics. You need higher energy. You need also, everything to work. You need better maps. You need...
The basic format of everyone shoved into one large room and fighting doesn't work, right? That is just never going to be interesting because D&D is not a tactical game. It's all going to come down to rolls of the dice.
Yeah.
This type of
I mean,
thing. It's a paper, rock, scissors.
Yeah. No. I think so.
Thing.
Let's let's entertain the idea for a moment that it has to be competitive PvP, right? It has to be 4-on-4 or 2-on-2 or something like that. You're right that that's always going to be like not that compelling because there's a huge element of randomness to it. But if they must, and Matt, I think they are, even if this fails, there will be somebody else and somebody after them, and they're going to keep on beating this dead horse until the sun burns out because somebody got the idea that you could combine two of the most popular things online and get rich doing it. So let's work with the unfortunate truth that this is probably going to keep happening.
If a Reese's Pieces is you got your chocolate in my peanut butter, this is like you got my sort of bag of maggots into my delicious tender steak. So it's not a great combo.
Not a great combo. Again,
don't put the lime in the coconut.
I'm trying to be. I'm a fan of esports, so I will say it's two good things, but they don't go well together. It's
two great tastes that
it is not
spoil together.
It is not chocolate and peanut butter. It is oil and water. Or something
okay,
even worse.
But if you had to do, and we have another solution, but we'll get to that in a second. But if you had to do,
so I do think
PvP
I know how you feel about this, but I feel like we should fix this idea, and then so first off,
in person,
or if that's not possible, put the teams in the same room.
Right, the teams have to be in the same room. Then what I would do is the teams and the DM have to be in the same room. You have 3 dungeon masters. You have 1 dungeon master for each party, plus a central master dungeon master.
I think one of them should be literally their only job, rules arbiter. There should be somebody.
Right, that's the master dungeon master. Coordinate things, do rules, quick up.
But there should be somebody who knows all the rules or is good enough at looking up rules that's their only job. Have a sour taste in my mouth from saying that, but if it's going to be competitive, it must be. And again, sorry, Grant, you did a good job, but I saw at least a couple times when you made a bad ruling. You ruled inconsistently at least twice.
The deciding thing of the match that won someone's the game, a sorcerer casting 2 scorching rays in 1 turn, is a basic violation of the rules. And since this is for actual money, if I was on the other team, I'd be kind of pissed. You basically stole the win from them.
Basically. So I'm curious to see how this is going to get resolved. And by the way, there were supposed to be more videos posted, but they only posted the one.
I don't know. This could be over.
By the time this comes out, this may...
No, the next one's next weekend.
Okay, we'll see, but... again, even if this completely goes under and they can't make it work, somebody will do this again.
Yeah.
So number one is more DMs, better production. So put them in the same room, have more DMs, so that it goes faster.
Number 2, as we said before, players make their own parties.
Yes.
With big personalities. Yes. People on the sort of companion side to this can look up both the backstory of each player character plus the party's backstory. Right. Either do I want to cheer for the party that's a part of a crime syndicate, or the party that is a righteous band of holy warriors, and they're all if someone made a all paladin cleric party, people would love that.
That'd be hilarious.
God,
and it would probably be marginally competitive if they're going to make characters.
And even if they're not, they could be fan favorites.
That's right. And see, 5th edition is perfect for this. It's finally an edition where it's pretty hard to break it. So why are you giving them pre-gens instead of giving them some very basic parameters? Use these books, or what if you just make it Adventurer League legal, and then that's
of course you basically say
because there are
standards.
Already rules for this. So just say make an Adventurers League compatible character and bring it to the session.
And then I think number 3 is while they've got this idea from MOBAs of that you have this static map, and based on what I read is they're going to play every match on this.
Oh, that's a mistake.
This is a terrible idea.
A mistake.
The beauty of Dungeons and Dragons, and newsflash to your listeners, is it all takes place in your mind. So you can come up with any damn thing. You want to fight on the throne of the dead god of a previous civilization. You want to fight on a bunch of floating islands. You want to fight in the middle of a sturge-infested swamp. Do it. There needs to be they need to be in an actual dungeon. Yes. It doesn't have to be a big dungeon, but there needs to be environment things. I would love to see a party lure another party into a room that they discovered had a trap in and, drown them all as they fill it with water.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think they're trying...
That's what people wanted to see.
They're trying to make it fair so that it's all the same map, but they've already introduced randomness in the
D&D
form of...
is random.
But even beyond that, they've introduced it in the form of the magic items and the environmental hazards. So why not start a map that's... over a pool of lava, or has flooding rooms, or has
Does this make a barbarian that's really strong and can chunk people over the edge, or a wizard with Thunderwave more powerful? Sure.
Yeah.
But they'll be less powerful in a different map.
And
it doesn't matter.
D&D is already, we're already being very generous and assuming this can ever be competitive. Right. But even if we're trying to go for that, D&D is already random. So
esports have very little, especially the ones that are viewed as the most competitive, have very little randomness. Right? Counter-Strike has no random elements that I am aware of, except for maybe the dispersal of smoke. Yes. Has a slight randomness to it. Games like League of Legends and Overwatch have a tiny bit of randomness, but it's almost imperceptible.
Also, and I know you're agreeing with me, but people also watch Hearthstone, which is obscenely random, and people do play that professionally, and they do play it in front of a lot of people for money. There are a lot of complaints about that, which I understand, but again, lean in. Again, stop trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole. Lean into the things about Dungeons and Dragons that work, right? There are different types of esports. Some of them rely on personalities. Some of them rely on extreme technical skill, which is more, Counter-Strike. Don't try to make D&D into League of Legends when it is a better fit for a battle royale in the WWE.
Yeah, at the end of the day, all they did was make a more boring version of League of Legends, which is a fool's task. You're never going to make a more exciting version of a MOBA that's just a MOBA. Right? So this time the players are the battle takes place on a lightning rail train,
Sure.
Or on an airship,
or just, I don't know, a map with 2 levels. Like the one that we saw was just like
the bar is low,
a big room with walls. Like it could not have been more generic. And again, it was made in like the map maker, and get somebody to do art. I pay them again.
You have $5,000.
If you have $5,000 for a prize pool, you can pay somebody $100 for like a good, like that's a lot for a good map. But you could absolutely pay somebody for a pretty map that's like visually appealing, but also, you know, tactically balanced.
Right. Basically, the way you would do it is you'd have each dungeon master run their party through unstructured time. When the parties ran into each other, that's when the master DM would come in and say, all right, now we're going into rounds, etc., etc.
I gotta disagree. It's already too long. That's the major problem. I would put them in an even smaller arena with no time, and they would start combat immediately, because it's just too long.
All right.
It was already 45 minutes.
Right.
I mean, it's already too long.
Again, back to our point of
there's no way to do it. The whole thing is folly, but it's already too long.
All right, so let's now set aside or come back to our main point, which is competitive PvP Dungeons and Dragons.
So I don't think we should talk about this. I think we should talk about idea.
Okay.
I think we should save it either for another podcast.
We're going to save it for another podcast.
We'll start working on it, but I would like to have something to show before we show our ass and tell everyone how much better our idea is than theirs, which it is. We should make sure we have something to show for it.
Yeah, we don't have anything to show for it, but savvy listeners who know a little bit about the history of competitive Dungeons and Dragons might know what we're thinking.
Yeah. And stay tuned for, we're going to be, we have a lot of projects, a lot of irons in the fire, hoping to have some things to show to you on the website and on DM's Guild soon. We'll just give like the basic idea is that PvP, or direct, battle royale,
party versus party,
deathmatch combat, we do not think is the right way to do competitive D&D. However, there are ways to do competitive D&D.
No.
There is theory. I'm not sure that it's ever really been done well, but we could see it happening. So I wrote down, and again, this I'm not sure how big of an operation RPG sports is, and so again, I'm trying not to be too critical, but also like a big problem here is just it's amateur hour. People are
sound was off.
No. People were getting rules wrong. People weren't paying attention. It just this could have been a lot better with a lot more energy, better personalities, people paying attention, better players, better. Yeah. And again, it was hard, so I'm not sure I could have done better. But also, nobody's paying me, so it doesn't matter. But I just there's lots of reasons why this didn't work, and Matt and I want to say one final time that. We don't think it will, and that it's a waste of time. It's a fool's errand. But, again, just about everything...
The world will prove us wrong, and in 5 years' time, we'll be the only last people still playing story mode.
I know, that's right, we'll be...
What a nightmare.
God damn it, Matt and I will be
now that we've coined it story mode D&D,
that's
we'll
right.
Be the old hangers on.
Oh, God.
All is lost. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The Falconer cannot... The Falcon can't hear the Falconer.
What rough beast slouches towards
Hamlet
to be born. Anyway, so obviously this has broken our brains. Thanks for listening, everybody.
We're dead. Actually, before we go, listeners, if you watch this stream or have thoughts, let us know. Are we wrong?
If you liked it, let us know. Yeah.
We're curious. If you have ideas.
Also, if somebody has done this differently or elsewhere and better and we don't know about it, absolutely let us know. We're very interested in your opinions on this. As we've mentioned, the CEO of Hasbro has said these words out loud. So it is already not only in his mind, but recorded. It is record and will happen. So
the CEO of Hasbro can eat a bag of dicks. I don't even think he knows what Dungeons and Dragons is.
Well, so. Matt's also correct, but I guarantee you that his subordinates heard this and have been scrambling to make it happen ever since. So,
CEO of Hasbro, more like CEO of Has Been.
No, anyway, something like that.
Has been. That works.
That's okay. All right. So anyway, if you hate us, if you're mad at us, if you were on the stream and you you feel like we were mean to you.
Grant, you did your best, buddy.
Grant, you're a champ. It's okay. You made a bad ruling. We do it all the time. I'm also never on TV. So.
I'm never costing one $5,000.
Yeah, I'm never online.
Misinterpreting a
never show my face online for this very reason. But also,
Rob, there's like 3 pictures of you on our website. I don't know if you know that.
Everybody did fine. You know, again, a lot of pressure, big deal. Email us at dmofnone@gmail.com. Add us on Twitter at dmofnone. Leave us a review, a rating. Only if it's 5 stars. If you don't like us, just don't bother. I don't know, man. And thanks for listening.
Keep rolling them dice.
Keep rolling them dice.
Take your line. I almost forgot about it.
Why my rich niggas at, man? Why real shit, man? Migos! Bro, niggas stand to the left. My rich niggas stand to the right. Lil' mama, she keep looking at me. I'ma knock the pussy out like fight night. Hit it with a left, hit it with a right. I'ma knock the pussy out like fight night. Beat it